Conscious Straight Talk with Katie and Lindsey.
Hi, my name is Katie Hutchinson, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm also a certified mediator. And happy Wednesday. We're so happy to have you here.
I'm Lindsey Kearns. I'm the mama behind MalibuMamaLoves.com, and I'm also a certified conscious trauma-informed life coach. So I have a question for you guys. Have you ever been stalked before? Do you have a friend who has? Are you worried that possibly a friend or family member or someone that you even just know, an acquaintance, may be stalking somebody else? Guys, it's time we start talking about stalking.
So, absolutely. It is estimated that 13.5 million people are stalked every year in the USA alone.
Yeah.
1 in 3 women are going to be stalked, and 1 in 6 men are going to be stalked, which actually, that kind of surprises me a little bit. That's a lot. It comes in many different vile and horrific forms. And though all states list stalking as a crime, it is very rarely prosecuted, and it's very hard to prove and to bring justice, right, for these victims.
In fact, fewer than a third of our states classify stalking as a felony offense in the first circumstance. It's crazy to me.
Sick.
And then more than half of our states classify stalking as a felony offense upon the second or subsequent offense, or when the crime involves an aggravating factor. Now let's think about this one for a minute. Once the stalker has made contact, breaking something, possibly violating you somehow, beating you up,
choking you, slapping you,
even killing you,
hurting your child, your animals,
then the police may do something about it.
Which is just insane to me. I mean, it's just horrible. We need to change these laws, and that's why we need to keep talking about this. Stalking can occur in so many different ways, and it instills the fear of life in the victim, causing anxiety, depression. It can cause isolation, but we really want to stop this because it can really help to be talking to people. Physical problems, social problems, sleeping problems. How do you sleep when you're afraid somebody's going to be killing you 24/7? Sadly, there's not much that the police can do to protect these victims, as the stalkers are smart, sneaky, and they know how to walk the line of the law to control their victims by fear. All too often, the victim has been deeply abused and affected, if not killed, from the stalking. Before the police or the law can take any action, it's just simply too late. And this brings me to a story right here. And that is about 2 years ago, I think I'm right on the time, there was a girl at the University of Utah, and she was about 21, and her boyfriend was 37, and she had called it off. And this adorable girl, not that that matters, but she had told the police, she called the police over and over again, I'm afraid, told her parents, I'm afraid, told her friends, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, do something, do something, do something. They just didn't do enough. And so I think he got her in her car, he shot her, killed her, and then he shot and killed himself. And that's another huge thing, is they say they're going to commit suicide.
There's
we'll get
just
to that.
So much to it. I mean, but the way I see it, our best line of defense in protecting each other within our communities is to talk about it, to learn about it, and to understand some facts behind it. So Katie, let's for a minute talk about the stalkers themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So to be honest, in about 50% of the cases, these stalkers do present with multiple, disorders, mental disorders. You know what I mean? I want to be clear that stalking is a behavior. It's not necessarily a mental disorder.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So stalkers do present with a wide variety of mental disorders, or they can present, should I say. With psychosis playing a serious role for these stalkers, with intimacy seeking or revengeful motivations. While personality disorders, depression, substance abuse are common amongst those with rejected, resentful, and predatory motivations. While personality disorders, depression, and substance abuse are common amongst those with stalking behaviors, there are still many stalkers that don't have these issues.
That don't have mental illness,
Right, but they are clearly highly disturbed.
Absolutely. And what's really scary is that, often these people are intelligent, and the stalkers are able to walk that line of the law, and they look good enough and present well enough when they're being questioned that it gets ignored or pushed under the rug, or it's not really happening, or they just had a bad day. And this escalates to a really dangerous point because nobody's getting in there to help either of these people. The victims' lives are usually completely destroyed. And honestly, I'm going to make a statement here that most people generally don't even realize or think about, but let's be real here. Let's be conscious for a minute. The stalker's life doesn't get any better either. It's literally hell.
No, they're not
for
happy
everybody.
either, clearly.
Our communities, our victims, our stalkers, nobody is happy from this.
And actually, nobody really helps the stalker. We need stalking groups for stalkers. You know, I mean, not that they're going to go, but okay. So there are different types of stalkers. The first one is the rejected stalker. So some stalkers have been rejected by a person that they wanted a relationship with, or they've just experienced a breakup. This is huge. Or, you know, divorce, possible divorce, etc. The stalker may be looking for a way to salvage this relationship or want to remain as close to the victim as possible. In other instances, they're angry and they want revenge for being rejected. So this brings me to Tarasoft, the Tarasoft Law. This is something that we have to study so much as therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, I'm hoping, general.
So the Tarasoft Law was put in 1976, and it is meant to allow therapists, psychologists, or psychiatrists to break confidentiality. Do you want to tell us the story of how that happened?
Yeah, so what happened, it was 1976, and this guy that was a foreign exchange student, and they both went to Berkeley, which is where I went, so of course it makes it even more interesting to me. He was, like I said, foreign exchange student. He'd gone out on a date, maybe one date with this girl, but she was not interested at all. I think she made it clear. She wasn't mean or anything. She just was like, we're just friends, like not into this.
Yeah.
So she goes on vacation. I think it was like spring break or something. And during this time, he goes to a school psychologist there at Berkeley. And he tells the school psychologist, hey, I'm going to kill this girl because she doesn't like me and I like her and whatever else. And he was like, horrified. Now, at this time, you were not supposed to break confidentiality at all. But he decided, you know what, I'm going to tell the campus security, campus police. I'm going to do whatever I can to try to protect this girl. Now, did he tell the girl? No, that he did not. And so what happened is the girl came back from vacation and he went over and he killed her. And did he kill himself? I can't remember. But as a result of this, what happened was we have a duty to warn now. We break confidentiality. If somebody tells us that they want to hurt somebody or whatever else, we now have to let the victim know. We actually have to let, beyond Tarasoft, there's another law. We now have to let the people that they're living with know, and then their family know. Anybody, anything that you can do within reason to try to protect this potential, victim. So it's a wonderful law, and
just so sorry important. How we came upon it, right? It's sad that happens. The predatory stalker is the next kind we want to talk about. Predators are often sexually obsessed and they have deviant sexual fantasies. So this is a lot about fantasy. Typically this is male, but there are women too that do this, but it's mostly men. And their victims are usually women that are complete strangers. Someone that caught their eye in the roads or on the, social media somewhere. But the stalker has a sexual interest in them. They get turned on and it can start with like voyeurism, and it becomes a precursor to some form of a sexual assault.
I mean, I think of Ted Bundy in this situation. Yeah. Yes, he's a sociopath.
And all the peeping Toms.
Yes, he's a sociopath, but he would just see his victims. They had the right look, long brown hair, parted down the middle. It was the 70s. And, he would just go after them and he would kill them. So, and it doesn't have to be like that. When she said voyeurism, I think of how many public restrooms do you think that we've been in, that we've been going to the bathroom and there's a camera and somebody's like, selling it to the dark web. Is it the dark web or the black web or whatever?
The next kind is the incompetent suitor.
Okay. So these kinds of stalkers are typically incompetent at relationships. Lonely, and they target strangers or casual acquaintances because they just don't know how to make a relationship come true. They assume they can convince the object of their desire to start dating them by just harassing them, usually. They can often seem blind or indifferent to the suffering they inflict on the victim. Many of these stalkers have really, really poor social skills. I would say all of them.
Well, they can't relate to other people, and they've kind of created a fantasy in their head. So they're not really in touch with reality.
Yeah, no.
There's
clearly
also
not.
the resentful stalker. And
Mhm.
some people become stalkers because they feel like they've been mistreated in some way.
Mhm.
And they're pissed about it. And so they're going to make whoever mistreated them hurt too.
Yep. Yep. So, yes, they will. They're going to experience feelings of paranoia or persecution, and they can be self-righteous and self-pitying. And so I have an example. So my first boyfriend, I hope you're not watching this, but anyways, my first boyfriend, I broke up with him. It was a long relationship because I was young. And then I had a second boyfriend. And for some reason, I just felt like, I felt weird. Like when I was with my second boyfriend at my house, my first boyfriend knew where I lived, obviously. And I would just get these weird vibes. And one day, my second boyfriend had spent the night, and I went outside just to my front door to just check, I don't know, the newspaper for my dad or something. And I had found our photo album that I had given him. And he had taken every picture of himself and cut it out and then just left me in the picture. I'm surprised he didn't cut me up. But anyways, I was scared. It scared me.
It's a red flag.
It's scary. It's a red flag.
That's a
it
major
scared
red
me.
flag.
I lived through it, but it was kind of scary. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not an exciting, thing to have happen to you.
No, it's not. No, kind of.
The next one is an intimacy seeker.
Mhm.
So often mentally ill, the intimacy-seeking stalker believes the victim loves them, like full-on believes this person loves them or will learn to love them as soon as they spend enough time together. They have completely delusional beliefs that the victim already does love them. And in many instances, this is what happens to the prominent and celebrity figures.
Okay, but this is something that is disturbing to me. It's not that I don't want you celebrities to be protected, but I will say that since like the 1980s, it might be the 1970s, the minute that celebrities said that somebody was stalking them, all of the LA police are on it. They are on it. They are protecting them before anything happens. They're doing everything that they can to protect these people. So why can't we be protected too? It's so wrong on so many different levels.
There's also political stalkers, and these are stalkers that are unique in that they're motivated by political beliefs. So they end up either stalking someone that they agree with because they become obsessed with them and want to be more with them and part of them and just all that
agree
weird.
with them. Like that's
why they're obsessed with them. They're in the fantasy of like, this is my person.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I'm stalking them. This is
my
who's
twin
gonna
flame.
be with me. Yeah. Or they disagree with the views and they want to instill the fear of God into them, and so they stalk them for that.
And they shoot the president. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. The most dangerous are hitmen because they are hired to do just that.
To literally kill you.
They'll
stalk you for a little while. You may or may not get scared, but the end result is you're dead.
You might not even know you're being stalked, honestly. It's also been documented that stalkers are often unemployed or underemployed and can be delusional, clearly, and have very narcissistic personalities. Personality disorders are present in more than half the stalkers who have been evaluated, and we need to do so many more studies.
Yeah. So that gives us a little bit of an understanding of, when we're looking at the stalkers, it breaks it down to different types. Maybe you can get a little bit of a feel for what you're dealing with. But let's talk for a minute about the effects on the victims. Over 46% of stalking victims report fearing not knowing what is going to happen to them next, feeling like it could be anything, saying that they are constantly walking on eggshells,
which is
exhausting.
Totally, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Over 30% of stalking victims fear it will never stop, and honestly, I feel that this is a lot higher because how could you not become just hopeless? You know
I think it's
mean?
low because some people are afraid to say that this is going to be forever.
That's
but
what
they
it
feel
is. Yeah, they're just not talking about there aren't enough research done. There isn't enough research done. Hello, I can speak. So they do walk on eggshells and are convinced that this is what their lives are going to look like forever. And how horrible to think that, because a lot of times these people are, pretty young. It doesn't mean it can't happen when you're older.
Kind people.
Yeah.
A lot of times they're the people pleasers.
No, totally.
But it can happen to anybody. I mean, you catch somebody's attention in the wrong way and
of course. And actually, I just was reading an article in People magazine. I can't remember this guy's name, McCloughy or something like this. And it's all over the news. And he's in a different state, Georgia or someplace like that. And he's this high-powered, prominent attorney. Like, everybody knew him. The whole family was, like, in the Senate or whatever else. And he was having problems with his wife. I think they were even looking at divorce or whatever else. And she had moved out. And his father was ailing, and so she was really close to the father. He talked her into coming over to the house to then go to the hospital to see the father. And she didn't want to do it. She just kept trying, like, no, I'll just meet you at the hospital. And he just harassed her until she finally gave in. And she actually wrote something. She texted her friend. She said, something's fishy. I just don't feel right about this, but I'm still going. Listen to your gut, people, because guess what happened? She got over there, and they actually had 1,700 acres of land. So, pretty easy to kill somebody without anybody hearing. And he actually killed her and their son. Yeah. I mean, why do they have to kill the child?
It's awful. But, it also really deeply impacts our communities and our financial budgets as a whole.
Yep.
Right? Because 1 in 8 employed stalking victims lose time from work each week as a result of their victimization. And more than half lose 5 days of work or more regularly. And this is a scary fact, and it causes quite a loss in revenue each year for many communities. 1 in 7 stalking victims even are forced to move as a result of their victimization. They have to change counties. They have to move states, sometimes even internationally, changing their names, changing their finances, hiding so that nobody can find them.
And that's why we have safe houses, etc., to help these people. That's the one thing that's great out there, right? Although that's usually domestic violence.
They're very hard to find, too.
They are? Okay. Stalking victims suffer much higher rates of depression, understandably, anxiety, insomnia, and then we said isolation, which is such a bummer because we really want to work on that because they should be spreading their story to be protecting themselves even more. They live in this constant hypervigilant state. So their sympathetic nervous system is on overdrive. I talk about the sympathetic nervous system all the time, but this is our fight or flight. This is our protection mode. This is when we see a tiger, but there's no tiger there. And so we just feel like we're going to have a panic attack or we're going to run or we're going to do something. And so they're living in this constant state of hypervigilance, like looking over their back. And even just people that have been horribly abused in their childhood or teenagers or whatever, that hypervigilance never goes away. Sadly.
No. And they often feel completely isolated, frightened at every turn, and they lose faith in life. And it isn't fair, right? And literally, as I said before, everybody loses. So while there's no universal way to deal with all this stuff, real quick, we want to go over just some actions that may help you feel more in control of your life.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. Okay. So number 1, call 911 for immediate support because nobody knows your story like you do. And at least this will start a paper trail. And I'm really big about paper trails. We've talked about this before, but I think it's really important to either write it, every single thing that happens on your calendar, because you're going to forget. And it's important to say 9:46 p.m., door open.
Well, the thing with calling 911 is, and I've been in this situation before, I've had 2 actual proper stalkers that I didn't date, nothing to do with dating. And it's hard because the police literally, they can't really do anything. So I know when we're saying, hey, call the police, I've had the police come to me and say, hey, listen, unless this person is standing with a gun to your head and shoots you, we can't do much for you. However, what it is doing, it's creating that paper trail. You're getting a legal document because that police report is a legal document stating that you felt threatened and this happened at this point in time. And one of our other tips is to document every incident.
That's
and
what I'm
this is
saying.
part of it.
In your calendar, your daytime planner, or whatever, and then share it with trusted friends and family so that they can see what's going on.
Alert others. No. I'm pointing out. I'm with you. You're segueing great there, Katie.
Thank you.
But alert others. You need to tell people around you. Tell trusted friends, family, neighbors.
Don't be embarrassed.
If it's at work, send out a work email to your boss and to the HR department. For
Watch
sure.
out. Don't let this person in, et cetera, et cetera. It's
correct.
So important. And it's understandable that people are ashamed and people are embarrassed, but there is nothing embarrassed to.
And when you're alerting others,
to all of us,
many of us, you also have to tell your children or the people that live with you, because things will happen. They need to be able to expect and to understand what's happening and not get caught in trouble. As Katie said, many kids have gotten kidnapped to get the attention of the victim. So you need to notify your family and people. You
personally, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you also really want to connect with an advocate.
For sure. Yeah. And I want to talk
Document-
about that. Oh,
Time.
okay.
Yeah. We're going to connect with an advocate. That's really, really important. And documenting every incident and ending all contact.
Yes. Now you have to block them. I say this over and over and over again to people. Block them. Then you will not feel the impetus to answer their, they're trying so hard to get a rise out of you. You will not feel that because you block them. There is no contact with them. Do not be lured into meeting them at the house, at the wherever.
Yep. And you want to take their threats seriously. It's not a joke. A direct threat against you is often a sign of really serious danger. So take it seriously. You want to create a safety plan. You need to have a safety plan in place. Develop that personalized plan to keep yourself safe. Because these stalkers are using many different tactics. They make unwanted phone calls. They're approaching the victim in places where they shouldn't be. Right?
They're talk to your friends, family, try to get them on your side.
They're following and watching and taking pictures of you. They're sending unwanted texts, photos, emails, and messages to your social media accounts. They're sending gifts. They're using technology to cyber bully you. So it makes it really important to speak up about it, to talk to people about it.
Yeah, and to come up with all these different circumstances of where you are. What do I need to do within my house? Do I need to get a roommate? Do I need to move out of my house? Do I need to move back in with my parents? If that's an option. Personally, I would ship my kids off to make sure that they're protected. I'm serious. Yeah, like, kill me, but don't kill my kids.
It gets serious real quick. So you guys, we're going to keep this conversation going. We need to talk about stalking. We want to hear from you. Send us a direct message. Give us a comment.
Tell us about your stalking experiences.
Sharing is caring. And that is how a lot of times people can identify and figure out, ooh, that's what's happening to me. And have that aha moment. And maybe they can get to safety and get out in a situation that you weren't able to. So we want to hear from you guys. Give us a like, and we will see you guys on Friday.
Yeah, have a great day.
Bye.